Hello and welcome back to Red Brick Recap. I would say it's a beautiful day in Oxford, Ohio, but that would be a lie. We are getting a storm of biblical proportions right now. It is pouring rain in Oxford, Ohio, but no matter. I am joined once again by my co-host, Ted Brennan. Ted, how are we doing today?
I'm doing all right. A little tired, and as you can hear, the thunder probably in the background probably doesn't help. But busy day for me at least today. But that's kind of good when stuff is winding down and you don't really have anything else to do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've said it for the last month or so, but we've been in the home stretch here for a while, and then that's just kind of how grad school rolls. But it's been a fun month. It's been a good time, but it is unfortunately our last episode. We've made it. I think it's episode number 30. We've been doing this now for almost, 8 months. We've done this podcast. So it's unfortunately, we're both out of Oxford after this. So it's unfortunately time for us to say goodbye to Red Brick Recap. So this will be our last episode. We still got a lot to talk about this week, and we have a little surprise for our viewers here at the end. But if I don't get to say it at the end, it's been one heck of a ride. It's been a pleasure to do this show. And yeah, had a lot of fun moments this year.
Yeah, I mean it's been a fantastic ride. I want to give a special shout out to my dad because he was the one who pushed me to do this. I got the email from Tim and Jack, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna have time. I don't know if my schedule's gonna fit. And it ended up just being a great decision. Just able to do a lot of cool things, and really cover the Miami campus. It was really cool to get both basketball coaches on. That was really fun, and just talk a little shop with them, and some of the other interviews that we did. We did a lot of basketball interviews. Looking back at it,
yeah, I think all we did was basketball interviews.
Yeah, it was Kentucky, Trey Perry, and the coaches, Steele and Box. Yeah, so hopefully our next our follow-ups, they're able to get some more people on.
Yeah.
That isn't basketball related, but it's been a great time. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm just I'm happy I was pushed in the right direction.
Yeah, I want to echo that statement. If I didn't get that email from Tim, I would have never gone to Notre Dame. I would have never gone to Indiana. I would have never gone to the MAC championships, all on a media pass. So it's been a really fun ride for the last 18 months or so, but graduation comes thick and fast. And at some point I do have to step into the real world. So it's been a good time, but thank you to everyone at Riverfront for giving us this opportunity. This has been a really cool experience on this podcast for the last 8 months. And then for the last almost 2 years doing coverage via social media and on the Riverfront website. So for everyone who's tuned in, whether that's once or every week, huge thanks to you guys. It's been a lot of fun, but we got a lot to talk about this week. So we'll save the sentiments for the end. Let's jump right in. As we just mentioned, we talk a lot of basketball on the show. We'll talk a little bit more before we move on. Transfer portal stuff. Couple updates. I don't really know where to start with this, because when I saw this news come down, I was a little bemused is the word I'd use, about how this certain player is going to fit into our team. But Almar Atlason, I believe is how to pronounce that, is joining the Red Hawks. I believe 6'8", Icelandic guy. I forget which school he came from, but Bradley. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a weird fit. Interesting to see how he fits, but hey, anytime you can get some depth in the portal, I'll take it. Ted, anything to say on him? Because to be honest with you, I had never heard of him before.
Yeah, so Almar, he comes over from Bradley. He's got about 3 years of eligibility left. Oh my gosh, my lights are flashing. But yeah, so he's got about 3 or 2 years of eligibility left. Comes over from Bradley. He's 6'9", 235. So he's the same height as Antoine, which is good because we are losing Potter. But he played high school ball at Sunrise Christian Academy. If that name sounds familiar, they play a ton of ball against Montverde Academy. So he's got experience against tougher opponents. But this kid the kid's a sniper, to say the least. He played every game, it looks like. There were obviously some games where he played more. He started out the year starting, and then kind of came off the bench starting in mid-December. But yeah, he led the Braves last year in 3-point percentage. He shot 41%, which is what Miami loves to do. They love to have shooters getting guys to shoot. Excuse me. But yeah, so he led the team. I'm reading his thing right here. Yeah, he led the team in 3-point percentage at 41, became the first Bradley men's basketball freshman to accomplish that feat since some guy in 2016. He set the single game freshman 3-point record with 6 in his third ever game. He averaged 4 or about 5 points, 1 rebound, and about 2 rebounds in about 20 minutes per night. So I don't think he's going to be the imposing force, but he kind of fills in for Potter, that spot shooter off the bench.
I'm curious to see how we're going to play next year with him in the if he is in the rotation. Obviously, that's not a guarantee with how many talented players we have coming in. But going from Potter, who's 7 foot, to Atlason, who, did you say 6'8"?
6'9".
6'9". Okay, that's a big step down size wise. I'm wondering if we're trying to. I'm obviously apples and oranges. If we're going to go down like the Akron route of just trying to get smaller and trying to play faster, which I definitely would not hate, because we saw in the MAC championship that when Akron gets out in transition, and when they're one of the faster teams in transition, they're impossible to stop. When it comes to like the 4-5, though, if you play Ant with Atlason pretty much takes that kind of corner spot up role, or kind of on that perimeter role. Who does that move off the 4? Because that's where Ian Elmer was playing at times. It's kind of where Brant Byers was playing at times in that corner kind of switching role. So trying to get all of those wings into the game. I know Atlason's not really a wing. He's more of a forward, but because he plays on the perimeter so much and is such a threat from 3, he will be out there as well. Trying to get all of these guys on the floor at the same, or not at the same time, but all of these guys legitimate minutes for them to get in a rhythm and for them to contribute, I think is going to be a massive challenge next year. I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago with, frankly, how well Miami did in the portal. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I'll say it again. After the MAC championship, I fully expected half of the team to jump ship. And that's not meant to be a snide comment at the team. That's just the state of college basketball right now, is when you have a little bit of momentum, you take that next leap. And for them to bring this many talented players back with the state of this conference, with, Akron bringing back a ton of talent, with Kent State and Toledo obviously not doing as well, but, still bringing in their fair share of talent as well. Miami's got competition, but I think right now it's us and Toledo are the 1-2, and you can interchange which one's which with who has the most talent on their roster right now.
Us in Toledo or us in Akron?
Oh, Akron, excuse me.
So yeah, Toledo had to rebuild their entire program. So
yeah, and I meant to say Akron. Yeah. That was a little Freudian.
It remains to be seen. Yeah, I understand the like concern about like, oh, where does everybody fit in? Absolutely, that is a completely like viable concern here. I'm going to say this as an armchair coach. This would be my dream rotation next year. I would start Ipsaro at the 1. You just kind of have to at this point. Pete, you can play at the 2 or the 3. Ian, you play at the 2 or the 3. And I mean, even like, well, okay, actually, I wouldn't even. I would not start Atlason. I think you bring him off the bench.
I agree.
And so I would probably say you start. Let's see. You start Ipsaro. Combination between Skaljak and Byers. It depends on if you want a little more guard heavy or if you want a bigger lineup. So Skaljak and Byers, interchange them. Pete at the 3. Ian at the 4. Wolf at the 5. That would be my ideal starting 5. And then rotation wise, like obviously you bring in Byers, you bring in Atlason, you bring in Robbins, you bring in Kirby, and maybe Perry for another ball handler off the bench to start on who you start. I would love to see LaShawn Stowers get minutes next year. I think he's I think he definitely can play. I definitely think he can play at a high level. I think right now he's probably my odd man out, just because he for Peoria, he was like a 6'6" big man or 6'5" big man, and now it's like you got to transition from playing kind of that do it all role to being a freshman and leaning more. You're probably going to lean more guard or wing overall, but I think that would be probably the dream 10. But this team is deep, man. This team is going to be really, really deep.
I mean, the fact we're seeing LaShawn Stowers, who was threatening for Illinois Mr. Basketball for most of this season, is the odd man out for a Miami University basketball roster is wild. Like that, I would have never dreamed of saying that when I got here 4 or 5 years ago. So it shows just how far this program has come in not a ton of time. I do want to say about LaShawn Stowers, Illinois is one of those, obviously I'm biased, I grew up in the state, but if you can succeed in Illinois, you can play college basketball. And obviously we're not in the gym every day. We're not in the workouts. We're not seeing the work that's being put in. We're not seeing who's excelling and who's not. I have really high hopes for him. I think he could be really, really, I think he's better than what people are giving him credit for. And I really do think that if he has a good camp, if he has a good offseason, that he could be probably not a start, like obviously not a starter with how many people we brought back, but a really, really solid contributor for like 15, 20 minutes off the bench.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Stowers. I think he could be a very good player for this Miami team. And I would really love to see him be a good player for this Miami team. I just think right now with his position, there's a logjam. I mean, I don't think we see Kyle Waltz at all this year. Or if we do, it's like in those, those 4 games where it's,
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, those pencil in a Miami win games type things. But it just shows you that we like the team is just so deep, and I think you're absolutely right. I think like I would like to see LaShawn Stowers. The reason I lean Kirby right now is just because of the offense. And again, that's not to say that LaShawn Stowers can't score. It's just that he's got a little bit of that JYD junkyard dog mentality where he's going to be a bruising force. And that's kind of how he was in high school. But I think Kirby offers a little more versatility in a lineup where it could be 4 freshmen coming off the bench and then Almar Atlason, right? So, and even if you have like Skulljack or Byers coming off the bench. So I guess it wouldn't be 4 freshmen. I guess it would be 3 freshmen. As much as I like Byers, as of right now, from what we saw last year, he's not creating for himself. People are giving him the shots. I think Skulljack might be a little better because then you don't have to rely on Trey Perry too much as a primary ball handler to start out. But it depends on who has a better camp, right? If Byers comes in and has a great camp, start him. If Skulljack comes in and has a great camp, start him, right? And I think we're going to see a lot more tinkering. I think we're going to see a lot more tinkering with the lineup early on, unless camp is like, hey, this is the lineup, roll with it. But gosh, man, this team is so exciting. It's just so exciting. So I'm really, really excited, and the fact that we can say that we have a 12, we can say we have a 10 or 11 man deep roster. If you want to throw Waltz in there, go ahead. If you want to throw Kentucky as a 12th person in there, go ahead. But like the fact that we you can say that like it's 11 to 12 deep in the MAC, and we got guys who we may not even see this year. That's honestly incredible.
Oh, it's awesome, and it's really once again it's a testament to just how far we've come. Before we get to head first into men's basketball, once again, I do want to touch on the women's basketball transfer portal as well. Miami did make 2 additions this week. First one being Clara Garcia Planella. I believe she came from Jacksonville State, played about 20 minutes a game last year, had about 9 points a game off the bench. That's solid depth. I mean, we talked about it with the men's team as well, like with how robust the MAC is, you need as many talented players as you can get, and she fits that mold. Looked like she put up good numbers last year. I don't have the numbers in front of my head. It looks like Jacksonville State actually took down her player profile, so I can't find anything player profile wise, but it's from memory serves, it's around 8.5 points a game in 21 minutes. That's solid numbers, and that's a good ad. I mean, we talked about it with Coach Box a couple of weeks ago. He knows what kind of player he wants to bring. He knows the prototype he wants to bring in, and obviously, like I said a second ago, like we're not in these camps, we're not in these meetings, so we're gonna have to wait and see. But that's a player I'm really excited about.
Yeah, so looking at her stats last year, because it's still up on their website. You just have to go directly to the roster page. She averaged 8 points, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. She's a 5'8" guard. She's gonna be a senior, so she's probably gonna play that role that we saw Maya Chandler in this year, where it's a veteran guard who's able to play alongside Tamar Singer, and really help steady the offense. Um, when needed. She had a couple games where she went 10 plus points. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So out of 30 or the 23 games, over 10 points, 11 games. That's a pretty good spread. It looks like she's going to be pretty good. Shoots the ball pretty well, all things considered. 35% from behind the arc, 36%, which is what you need, especially after Chandler left. So I think it's a good pickup. I think it's a good pickup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this final. I'm glad that you found it because it took me like 5 to 10 minutes to pull it up, and I could not find it for the life of me. Ended the season with a 4-game streak with 10 points, including a 16-point game against. Oh man, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Against New Mexico, I believe. I mean, that's if we can get that kind of production, even if not as a starter, that's really impressive portal work from Coach Box. Second player we got in the portal was Ashton Ellie, I think from UAB. Came over, not as impressive of numbers, but pretty good percentages. 2.4 points per game, played less than 10 minutes a game towards the end of the season. Again, just more depth. Coach Box knows the kind of player he brings in. Again, we don't know a ton about these players. We didn't watch. I can't say I watched a ton of UAB women's basketball or Jacksonville State women's basketball last year. So I don't know a ton, but judging from how confident Coach Box sounded in our interview with him a couple weeks ago, I've got high hopes.
Yeah, like you said, don't really have much on her. So it kind of remains to be seen in terms of just who stays, who goes, or excuse me, what am I talking about? Just remains to be seen what she brings to the team.
Right.
And I mean, the women's basketball team, kind of like or unlike the men's team, has kind of been gutted by transfers. We've talked about the men's team. We talked about McCraft going to Georgia Tech. Makai Cooper recently just announced his commitment to Lindenwood, and Reese Potter from the men's team. He took a visit to Dayton. He's been pretty heavily linked to Dayton, although Wisconsin fans on Twitter this morning have said the team has kicked the tires on Potter, which would be a really big step up for him. But yeah, it looks like if he does go to Dayton, he's going to be the backup center at Dayton, which, if they're going to give him some NIL money, good for him. But regardless, the women's team, they have lost a decent amount. I know Lucretia Edwards, she's in the portal. Obviously, Angelina and Zuil Gonzalez are in the portal. Camille Jackson's in the portal. I think Emily Bratton was in the portal too. I think she just recently committed somewhere. So the team has been kind of gutted overall, which is interesting to say the least. She committed to Marshall. Yeah, Emily Bratton committed to Marshall. So yeah. It has been interesting to say the least, given that like this is a team that has so much potential.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead on. I think, like is the case with any sport where we talk about it, 7 months before we start playing or however long it is, it's kind of all up in the air. We got to wait and see. We can only report on what we know. And right now we don't know a ton. And Ted's absolutely right that the portal kind of I wouldn't say it. Outside of Angelina, I don't think there was a ton of like major production that was lost apart from like obviously Chandler graduating. But this is still a young team that's bringing a lot of pieces back. I believe Amber Schroeder's coming back. Ilsa DeVries is back. Those are two, forwards you can build around. Planella sounds like she can play the guard role pretty well. So again, I trust our coaching staff to kind of get this team back. And like for the first time in a long time, we've talked about the men's team a ton, but the women's team has a ton of momentum right now. I mean, the step up taken from year one of Coach Box to year two is super impressive. So even if, like, as you said, like, obviously the talent, or a lot of talent, has left in the portal, but who knows? He may not be done in the portal. And, from how confident he sounded when we talked to him, I think that he's got it. What's the word I'm looking for? He's got a level of expectation for this season that I don't think we've seen from Miami basketball in a long time.
Yeah, I think that Box knows what he's doing. Obviously, like, the defense is going to be another huge, incredible. What is the word I'm looking for? Talking point? No, like, it's going to be a staple of Coach Box's teams for years to come. So I mean, both teams have a lot of good momentum. Miami, Joe Lunardi of bracketology just picked Miami to be a 13 seed next year, which means they're winning the MAC. So that's Miami's now getting a little more national media attention. So,
well, we'll talk about that here in a second, but I do want to bring up that, like, Lunardi thing is, like, we talked about it with Coach Steele a ton last season, is the national publicity that comes with being in the tournament, that comes with being on this national stage. I mean, we got more press from the MAC championship game than I've seen a Miami basketball game get probably in my entire career here at Miami. Even if we were on the losing end of it, the amount of exposure that the Miami logo got, the amount of, like, name recognition that Miami got because of that game alone is highly valuable. And to continue to build these programs, to put them in a position to continue to be on those stages, whether that's football, whether that's baseball or softball, whether that's hockey, that's a huge selling point to the university for prospective students, to donors, to whatever stakeholders it may be, to continue to promote or support these programs. So we'll talk about it as we talk about our, like, kind of year in review, but I'm all for our teams going for it and, like, giving it their best effort, because it's a huge selling point and can be a huge revenue driver for this school.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, like, Miami had the game kind of in their grasp, ended up dropping it, but, like, even the fact that, like, afterwards they didn't get an NIT game, and there was a lot of people in Twitter on, like, the national stage that were like, how the heck did they not get anything? Like, this was one of the best teams in the one of the best major teams in the country. We had less than 10 losses, and there were teams that were in some of these mid-major teams that were in some of these tournaments that had less than 10 losses. Hell, we beat Kent State 3 times, and I don't want to rehash this, but, like, we beat them 3 times. And I get it, the KenPom ranking was higher, but, like, how the heck does that happen? Like, there's a reason that, like, I mean, it's funny because it's like, oh, it's like, if we get to the NIT, like, that's so great. But then it's like, at the same time, it's like, when the NIT like doesn't take us, we're like, oh, the NIT is a joke anyways. We don't want to be in that joke of a tournament anyways.
Exactly. No, I think you're dead on. The whole Kent State thing was so funny, and we're totally over it. We're totally over it. We're totally past it.
Totally past it.
But it was so funny. I don't think I've got that much hate on social media from posting about that, like, situation that I have in my entire life. Like, the amount of Kent State burners that were in my DMs and were in my mentions was ridiculous. And it was at some point really funny, but neither here nor there. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that even that conversation alone, even Chuck Martin's comments at the beginning of the year, was one of the first things we talked about, was a huge, like, talking point, and got Miami on the national scale again. Speaking of football, I think it's time for us to jump into our year in review. We've been doing this now for 30 weeks or 30 episodes. Obviously, we took some breaks in between, as is the nature of college and all of that good stuff. But we started with football, and football gave us I think a roller coaster is the term I'll use to describe it, because, man, that was an up and down season. There was a lot of highs and there was a lot of lows. I'll start, but, like, the best memory of the season for me, even if it wasn't the result we wanted, was that Cincinnati game. That environment was one of the coolest, like, college football environments I think I'm ever going to be a part of. To have that at my home field, to be on the sideline for that game, to be covering that game live, was one of the cooler things I've done in sports in my career.
Yeah. Unfortunately, didn't have an opportunity to get down there for that game, but I mean, being able to just like watch that game on TV and like know that it's like literally just going right on down the street was incredible. I guess I don't know, my best memory from this season. That's hard. Honestly, this is gonna sound stupid, but it's the game that started the win streak against, or UMass.
Hmm.
That was a game where, by all metrics, Miami. Well, coming into the game, it was like, okay, Miami should win this game handily. But like literally, we're getting to end of the game, and it's like Miami's down or whatever they were, and it's just like there's no way Miami pulls us out and wins this game. Like they're gonna lose, and we're gonna go to 0-4 or 0-5. Like
Yeah.
this has just been so bad, and it was raining, it was cold, it was gross. I know you were there, and like just being like, I hate being outside right now. It's cold,
It
it's
was miserable.
gross. And just like the product on the field was just miserable. Um, so I think like that game that really like kind of finally got the first win off their back. I think they like went on to lose to Toledo like the next week or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but like that week where it was just like they won on a walk off. Like we don't see a ton of walk offs. Like
No, that was cool.
Miami's either like up by a touchdown or two, or they're down by a touchdown or two. Like there's really no in between. So to like experience a last second time expiring walk off was honestly pretty cool.
No, I'm right there with you, and I think you're dead on. I think that was the like kind of the turning point of the season where Miami kind of realized like, hey, we're still a good football team. We can fight through adversity. Because I mean, you were dead on. The environment in that building, like even like there was, and I mean this, nobody there. There was not a soul to be seen. I think our attendance was well under 500, and that was our homecoming game. Like it was a bad environment, and it was like as it kind of made me sad as like a graduating student to like that be the homecoming game and that be the environment that our students get for homecoming, because it was dreadful environment wise, and that's not on the fault of the football team or on the university. That's just kind of how Mother Nature works sometimes. But I think you're right. I think there was at some point it just kind of felt like, okay, Miami's not as good as we thought this year. We're just going to pack it in this season. We'll come back next year and do it again. And to win that game and kind of realize like, okay, maybe there's still some life in this football team. Maybe there's still some fight in this dog. And then we were right. Like, I mean, we'll talk about it here in a second, but that win streak after, you're right. I think they were 0-3 into that UMass game, won the UMass game, lost to Toledo. And then to rattle off the season that they did to get to Detroit for the MAC championship was something really special. I mean, that win streak at the end of the season was a 7-game win streak. You don't see that a ton, especially not in the MAC. So to have that be kind of the catalyst for that, even if there was that little hiccup out on the road at Toledo in between, was something that I'll remember for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a really gross game at Northwestern, a gross game against Cincinnati, Notre Dame. It was crazy because it felt much closer than it was for a while.
I think, just a quick note about that. For the first quarter of the Notre Dame game being at Notre Dame, just another reason that I loved this job is because I got to go to Notre Dame and experience a football game there. If you haven't been to Notre Dame yet, go. It rocks. It's super cool. I understand all the hype now. But for the first 15 minutes, it felt, because it was the week after they had lost to NIU, and it felt truly that, oh my God, they're going to do it again to another MAC team. Because there was just so many like wild plays going. There was a muffed punt. There was a tip drill interception. There was a blocked field goal or something. I think Riley Leonard missed on 2 wide open passes. Like, this was an ugly football game, and it really felt like if Miami had scored a touchdown to make it 10-0, Notre Dame was in serious trouble.
Yeah, I mean, if Miami was just able to go 10-0, I think that game goes completely differently. Like, and I'm not being facetious. I'm not trying to be like, oh, crazy, but like when they missed that, when Miami was not able to go up 10-0, I think it took all momentum out of their sails. Like, it just completely changed the momentum. But I mean, remember, like, the first 3 games, Keon Mosey had like less than 100 yards, I think, something like that. Like, because he did not rush like at all. Like I mean, he had clearly less than 30 in game one because he wasn't even a leading rusher. Cincinnati, nobody had more than 14 rushing yards, and that was Kevin Davis. So coming into this one, and then he had 36 at Notre Dame. Coming into this, he had less than 100 rushing yards, and then UMass 100 yards. Toledo or 114. Toledo he had 40, but then it was like another 100 against Eastern. Another 111 against Ohio. Like Keon Mosey, like that was an underrated storyline that I know we had talked about, but like Keon Mosey, like being this guy who was kind of in the backfield for 2-ish years before this, and we kind of didn't really mention him all that much, to taking over the starting role and having, I think it was like 6 games over 100 rushing yards. Just honestly, just insane.
Which game was it? I think there was a home game where he went for like 180.
So
he had 2
versus Kent State. He had 196 rushing yards.
That's the one. I remember one because he broke off 2 long ones, and we're like, dude, he might be setting a record today if he gets one more long one. So
yeah,
Keon Mosey was a really fun storyline.
He had he had 6 games above like 100 rushing yards. Like,
yeah, I remember after the Cincinnati game, after the game where had like what was it, like 15 total yards on the ground or whatever it was. Someone said to Chuck Martin in that post-game pressers, like, hey, the run game's not working. It didn't work at Northwestern. It didn't work against Cincinnati. Is this something you're going to go away from? Is there time to like maybe put the ball in the quarterback's hands more? And he said, pretty much no. Running the football is our identity. It's what we're going to keep doing. Obviously, we kind of saw a step. Obviously, 14 to 36 isn't exactly a huge step forward, but it is a step forward. And it felt like there was more rushing yards on the ground there than the stats showed. But you saw as the season progressed, once Miami kind of established themselves on the ground and kind of realized they could just batter and bruise teams in the trenches, it was like watching 2 different football teams. So the emergence of Keon Mosey, I think, is, I'm not going to say the only part, but definitely a contributing factor to the turnaround that we witnessed from going from the 1-4 to 9-5 season that we saw. Again, before we move on, we have to, I know we don't want to, but we have to address the end of that season. Going to Detroit and losing in the fashion that we did. I said it back in November. I'll say it again. Timmy Chalamet knows more ball than I did, because I was all over Miami in that game, and he proved me 100% wrong. But at least we ended the season on a high note with a really, really fun bowl game win.
Yeah, I wish we didn't have to talk about this. What was so frustrating about it was literally like the first drive of the game. Like, I still don't understand why they didn't go for it on 4th and 1. I understand wanting to take your points, but it's the effing MAC championship game, man. I guess your rival. Like, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it sucked, but it was great to get a little Colorado Bowl win, send the seniors out on a high note. Oh God, not that picture again.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, it was great to send them out on a really high note. Like Gabbert had 184 passing yards, no touchdowns though.
He had one on the ground.
No passing touchdowns. He had a touchdown on the ground. Keon Mosey only took 8 snaps. I feel like he got hurt in that game.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then Jordan Brunson had 2 touchdowns. Kevin Davis, 148, 2 touchdowns. Like, it was a very, very good all-around game from the guys.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And then we kind of transitioned. We talked about football pretty much the entire fall, and then most of the winter into the spring, basketball. And we've talked about it a ton, so we won't spend too much time on it. But just to, recap or kind of just put a bow on it, 2 MAC tourney berths, so close to an NCAA tournament appearance on the men's side. I suggested we pick one MVP each from each squad, just kind of one player that kind of encapsulated the team's success that season. I'm going to put a caveat out there. You can't pick Peter Suter and you can't pick Angelina Gonzalez, because those are the obvious ones. I'm removing those 2 because I think that's kind of like the obvious picks if we were going, if we were actually voting for it. But just like 2 team MVPs that you really think that like summed up the team's success this year.
That's a good question. I would say MVP for the women's team, I would say Katie Richardson. She would come off the bench a lot, and kind of fill in for DeVries and Treader when they would get into foul trouble, and she played a really significant role. Um, as a senior, like she needed to step up, and she really did. So a lot of props to her, because she was able to, she was able to do a lot of things that I don't think were expected of her going into her senior year. And then for the men's side, I don't really want to say Cam Kraft because that's also feels like an obvious answer. So I'm going to go Ian Elmer. We have talked about him at length. He is going to be an all MAC performer next year. There's no doubt about it. Um, like he is just a specimen of a player, man. Like he went from averaging nine or let me look at his stats.
He was like
He went
6
from
or something.
he went from averaging 7 points, 7 points a game, 4 rebounds, and a half of an assist to 11 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. And I know that doesn't seem like a big jump, but most of his stats don't even show up in the stat sheet. His hustle, his effort, his heart, just everything about him. I mean, this kid was just a fantastic performer.
Yeah, I think you picked two great picks. I'm very fortunate you did not take my two picks, so thank you for that. For the women's team, I'm going to start with Tamar Singer. We talked about it with Coach Box a couple times that when she plays, they play so much faster, and she gets them moving in transition. She's a really good passer. Led the team. I think had to lead the team in assists. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if she wasn't number one, she had to be up there because there was a couple of games I remember her getting 5 or 6 assists a game. And I don't know, the difference between having her on the floor and not when you were actually watching the game was so stark and a huge contrast because it just felt like she kind of brought an X factor in a way to move the offense and manipulate the offense in a way that got them easy buckets. So I don't think that they win a ton of games without Tamar Singer running point. I think she was a huge part of that kind of potion that led to so much success. Men's side, I know obviously the season didn't end as well as we wanted to for him, but I've got to give it to Evan Apsaro. Coming off the bench as a spark plug, being in that closeout lineup, getting those games where he'd go for like 10, even if it was only like 10 points, 4 assists, but that man draws more charges than I think I've ever seen from a guy his size. That man makes so many hustle plays that, I mean, he just impacts the game in so many ways that, as you said with Elmer, just don't show up in the box score, that I want to make sure he gets his flowers for how much he contributed, especially down the stretch of that season. I think back to that overtime game at Millette where he kind of put the icing on the cake there for that win. And with his performance at the end of the game there, obviously wish the layup would have fallen in Cleveland, but that's the way life goes. But yeah, I think you can't talk about Miami's success this season without at least mentioning Evan Apsaro.
Yeah, I'm glad we chose two guys that like aren't like the two, like the top two. I mean, again, I wouldn't call him the MVP, but I'd call him the most underrated player on the team, Antoine Wolfolk. I mean, he was such a big pickup because like I'm like in my head right now, I'm like trying to remember like who the starting center was before Antoine. And
Rambo, wasn't it?
oh, that's right. It wasn't. How could I forget about Anderson Marambo? But like they just play like two like completely different styles of basketball where it's like Marambo is the shoot like it's funny. He's Marambo was 6'8", 305. He was like but he was like a spot up shooter. Like he would just try to shoot and he was a little more finesse. Like he wouldn't really use like his body. And then there's Antoine who's just a physical force in the paint, man. Like I mean he's got bowling ball shoulders, call Dwight Howard bowling ball shoulders. But like I'm like going back through the rosters right now on some of these teams and like the difference in the quality of players that we had is honestly insane.
Yeah, completely agree. I know we're running low on time here. We're getting close to our surprise, so I want to make sure we have time to shout out some other conference title recognitions that I wanted to make sure we touch on. Field hockey, obviously, we talked about them a ton. One of the best programs Miami has here. Dominant performance once again. What is it, 7 or 8 straight MAC titles now?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. So huge shout out to them. I can't wait to see what they do next year. Tennis, obviously, I think their season's still going, I believe, but I know they secured a MAC championship.
They won the regular season MAC championship.
Regular season MAC championship.
Which if I remember correctly, like that is like the MAC championship, because for a while they didn't have championships, but I think last year is when they started doing individual and doubles championships. So last year, Miami is the defending champions for the individual. I don't know about the doubles. I feel like they are also the defending champions for doubles.
I feel like I remember them winning doubles as well.
Yeah, so they're the defending champions going into like the playoffs of sorts.
Well, huge congratulations to them. Obviously, we may not be on the show to see their successes, but huge good luck to them as their season winds down. Swim and dive, again, we like field hockey, like softball. It's just another dominant program Miami has here that does not get nearly enough coverage as much as they should. Another hugely successful season, obviously making the jump from the MAC into the Missouri Valley and winning it at their first try. Massive accomplishment. So congratulations to them. That is insane that they made that jump and still were that successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just the fact that they just changed conferences and changed coaches too. Like that was their coach's like first year as the head coach. So that's honestly pretty impressive.
Yeah, and then obviously as I touched on with tennis, we got some MAC championships that may be won. Oh,
women's basketball just made a post. They just signed. I want to say she's a high schooler. I don't know. From St. Thomas. It looks like from St. Thomas. They just signed Amber Scalia. She's a 5'9" guard, Stillwater, Minnesota. Minnesota senior guard from St. Thomas, Amber Scalia.
All right, junior guard, yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be a senior next year. Another
15 points a game.
Hello.
Yeah.
Talk about your what's her face? Talk about
so that's production.
Angelina Gonzalez replacement. I mean, I'm looking at her stats right now. She dropped holy crap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games of over 20 points.
Yeah, that'll play.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 games of over 20 points, 7 games under 10 points. Whew.
Yeah, 40% from the field, 36% from three. That's production to be excited about. That's really cool.
Oh, yeah, that's big.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for them. But before we move on out of here, I want to make sure we shout out two possible conference champions in baseball and softball. Baseball secured a 10-8 win over Xavier this week. Dylan Baker might be the hottest hitter in the country right now. He's 13 for his last 19 in the last 5 games with a double and a home run against Xavier. That might have taken Xavier out of the postseason conversation. I saw a couple posts where they were still kind of floating around them or in that like on the bubble range with them in Cincinnati. So that might have actually removed them from postseason contention. And then softball swept a doubleheader on Wednesday with Bowling Green. 12-0 run rule in the second game, led by McKenna Campbell's grand slam. I think it was in the 4th inning. So two massive performances against 2 really good programs for our baseball and softball teams who could be competing for a MAC title in the next 3 weeks here or so. Yeah.
I mean, both teams are playing really well. I feel like it seems like every week we got a different, like we say a different Miami baseball player is like the hottest hitter in college baseball right now. So really just a lot of fun for the spring sports for sure.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, our time has come, Ted. It's the end of the season. We're both out of here at the end. But hey, it's been a fun year, and we're leaving you in very capable hands, viewers. We have 2 awesome hosts coming in next year. We're going to bring them on now in Zach Green and Kathan Babu. Zach, Kathan, how are we doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
And not too bad. How you boys doing?
Doing good. I've been staying inside. You've seen the rain?
Unfortunately, I have. I got caught in it, so unfortunately, not too happy about it. But very happy to have these guys on. They'll be taking over our duties next year. These guys are awesome. We've worked with them all season. Really capable hands. But for myself, it's been a fun year. It's been a pleasure running the Red Brick Recap. And for the final time, no more Same Bad Time, no more Same Bad Channel. I'm out. We'll see. I'll see you all at some point in the future. Ted, anything you want to say?
Just thanks for a great ride. It's been a ton of fun. Thanks for letting us talk a lot of shop about Miami sports.
Well, for both of us here at Red Brick Recap, myself and Ted, signing off. And Kathan, Zach, take it away.
All right. Well, hey, Zach, how are you doing, first of all? I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute, but
Yeah,
good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm pretty excited for next year. I definitely get into fall sports like football, etc. But how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just had one class this morning, but it's been a pretty slow week, so I'm pretty happy about that. But I'm glad you brought up the fall sports. Were you at that football spring showcase last week?
I was not. It was my dad's weekend, but I saw some
Gotcha.
clips, and looked promising.
It does, yeah. They were playing around with a couple different offensive plays. They had equal splits at quarterback, which I thought was pretty interesting. But Daquan Finn, he looks sweet. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. He's fast, is what it is. He can run.
I think in that sense he brings more than what Gabbert could. As more
absolutely. It is going to be weird because you've had Gabbert since 2019, first time, but you got someone who's, I would say, equally experienced. But yeah, we haven't seen a mobile quarterback. Even Avion Smith, he had rushing yards, but I wouldn't call him super mobile. This guy can run. He's going to be able to, turn. I think the big thing that Coach Martin was saying that a lot of the times, especially with new wide receivers, new people coming in, they're not going to get the timing right. But having someone like Daquan Finn who can run, get out of the pocket it's going to be good if mistakes happen early on.
Yeah, that's that kind of leads to my first point. I wanted to talk about can this football team, but the majority of the starters haven't even played with each other because they're just transfers from other some bigger schools, and can they mesh well together off the bat, led by Daquan Finn. Like you talked about Gabbert being here since 2019. This team kind of has a new look now, maybe a new identity. So what do you think about that?
I think the new identity is going to be held by some returners. Obviously, you don't have a whole lot of returners coming in. You got a couple guys leaving on offense, but you still have someone like Cole Weaver. He played 1 year here, and he's already a big part of it, of the offensive scheme. You're still retaining. Obviously, Chuck Martin's still going to have the same kind of leadership, same kind of play style, I imagine. You still have some good coaches on offense. So just having that leadership is going to be a big deal, but really it's about getting everyone on the same page. And that's something that Martin's talked about a little bit.
Yeah. Something else I want to talk about is can this team get off to a hot start? Because, last year, falling to Notre Dame, Northwestern, and
UC.
Yeah. I mean, those are three very good quality games. I would want to play Northwestern again at the end of our season. I think we'd put up a better fight than we did.
Oh yeah.
But getting off, putting yourself at 0-3 and then having to claw out in conference play, isn't the best, roadmap to take. But hopefully this year, Wisconsin away, that'll be a good game. That probably uphill battle as of now, but
oh yeah, the last time we played Wisconsin, I want to make sure I get the score right, but I think it was 58-0 in 2018. So we got our butts whooped when we last played them. But also at the same time, I think with this team, we can go toe to toe with UC. I think we should have won Northwestern. We just made mistakes in the second half that really cost us that game. So I'm not super worried about Wisconsin. I think it's going to be a tough matchup, no doubt about that. It was 58-0. It was 2015, not 2018. But I think that that's a winnable game if they come in with the right mentality. Yeah. And then going to Rutgers on the road the following week or the following game, that's tough. Back-to-back road games against Big Ten teams. That's going to suck. But again, I think that's very doable. They just have to have that right mentality, and it's a short off season, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at, a MAC team versus a Big Ten team. The Big Ten team's always going to have kind of the upper hand. But you saw when we played Notre Dame how went toe to toe with them in the first first quarter. So I mean, as long as Miami can, not self implode. You talk about the red zone interception against Notre Dame, that kind of set us back, and other stuff too. But as long as we don't make the mistakes and we let Wisconsin make their own mistakes and we capitalize off that, it could be a close game. I don't expect to win. It'd be really cool to win, but it's a long ways away. Who knows what can happen.
Who knows? I think if they really lock in, for lack of a better word, if they really get everyone, get that chemistry built up, we got some weapons on offense. There's no doubt about that. I actually really like Cole Weaver. I talked with him at the spring showcase. I have him as one of our best wide receivers going in, even though he is this is his second year. He's young. So I think he's going to be really good. Daquan Finn, obviously. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, I'm excited for Cameron Perry. I mean, he showed some shades last year. He's kind of undershadowed because he wasn't the top weapon, but he's not the biggest guy, but he's lightning quick. His route running is, I think, pretty high up there. So matched with Finn and Finn's ability to run and gun, and find Perry. Hopefully he can be number 1 or 2 option. I think he's a great weapon to have.
Yeah, it really is. I would say those first 2 games, and I'd stretch it to 3 for that home opener, is really going to set the tone. Because last season, I would almost say our 1-4 standing before that winning streak really should have been 3-2. You know what I mean? That Northwestern UC game, we definitely should have won. Toledo, I'll give them that. We didn't play good. Notre Dame, I'll give them that. We didn't play good in the second half. But I think early on it's really going to determine. I don't see us going down 1-3 this season and then going on a winning streak again. I don't think that's possible. Back-to-back years.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be an interesting start. Like I said, if they can start hot, that'll only make it easier for them down the stretch. Talk about the MAC title game last year. We got absolutely pieced up by Ohio. And then in kind of the opposite, in the Soup Dog Bowl game, won that by not even close.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. So I don't know. We definitely beat Colorado State by a good margin there. Kind of give ourselves a little pat on the back after that bad loss,
and that was bad.
Yeah,
they needed that. If they just ended the season on that, or if they lost again in Colorado State. Hell, even if they won in Colorado State, but it was a close game, that's not how you want to end the season. Not with what they did in conference play. But that title game was bad. So definitely, if we go back, that'd be really cool. But there's too much to unpack with that against Ohio. Well, it was 38-3. There's just so much that we did wrong. It's I don't know if I want to revisit that just now.
Yeah. All right. So shifting from football, maybe over to basketball, men's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
What are your initial thoughts going on next year?
Let's talk about the transfer portal, because that is so disappointing, I think. But if I was going to expect anyone to transfer out, Cam Kraft, 100%. He absolutely, I hope he has fun at Georgia Tech. I hope he has a good time at Georgia Tech. I think he deserves it. But that is going to suck not seeing him here, especially because a lot of the stories that I was hearing from him and a lot of what we wrote about at the Miami Student was how Cam chose here because of Travis Steele. He played with him at Xavier. He knew the coaching style. He trusted Steele and his play style, so he came here for that. And then seeing him leave after just one season, it's a little disappointing, but I think he's going to do good at Georgia Tech. I think he's going to kill it there. We're going to be missing Reese Potter and Mekhi Cooper. I think those are fundamental pieces, even if you look at their stats, and maybe they're not as impactful as someone like Ian Elmer, someone as Evan Ipsaro. But Mekhi Cooper, he was just explosive. He was started the entire season for a reason, and then missing obviously 7'1" Reese Potter is going to be huge. But I think we retain enough of the culture, and I think that we can fill in some of those pieces. Our high school recruiting class is pretty elite right now. We just got someone from the transfer portal. I got to look at all the names again, but I don't see us completely falling off. It's not going to be easy to do what we did again. You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, losing Kraft to Georgia Tech, Cooper to SDSU, or where did?
Let me check.
I forget.
Because Reese Potter, he's at Arizona. Actually, don't quote me on that. Arizona State, I think, but I could be wrong. I can't pull it up quick enough. But yeah, they're gone. I don't know what schools they're at, but they're officially out of here.
But I don't know. I feel like if they start off the bat, I'm kind of like football, like on a good foot, because building off the energy from last season, all the hype that they got, almost basically should have made the March Madness tournament.
NCAA, yep.
Yeah, after losing a heartbreaker to Akron. If it's hard to tell because like a guy like Kraft was so fundamental to the team. Like he had games where he would just go completely off, and he would have games where he would just be a role player and get this assistant. But I love Elmer. Guys like Justin Kirby coming in, Trey Perry. I'm really excited about them. That kind of leads me to how we saw like Byers and Scaljak this year had a good role on this team. Do you think Perry and Kirby can kind of have that same, bring more?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up Byers. I would arguably put him as my favorite player on the team from last season, just especially in conference play. He had a little bit of a slow start in the non-conference play, but during conference play, oh my God, he went off. So I'm glad you brought him up. He was one of my favorite players. And I think a lot of it is the coaching. If you just watch their practice or go to their press conferences and hear what coach is saying, like it makes me want to put a jersey on and join with them. And I'm not talented enough to play basketball, but I think you can bring anyone here who is willing to buy in. And I think that their recruitment makes it so that all the players that are here for a reason. So I got full faith in all those guys coming in. A lot of them are local guys too, from Ohio and Indiana. And I think that helps a lot because Steele was obviously a big name at Xavier. Miami's making sweeps in the Mid-American Conference. So having local guys is especially going to help, but just guys that are coming here willing to buy into that culture, willing to fit into Steele's scheme. I think that we, at the absolute very least, make the tournament again. I would put money on us getting to the championship again. But it is devastating to have 2 championship devastations in the same academic year.
Yeah. I mean, like talking about Kirby and Perry, I don't see, how they wouldn't add to the team like Scaljak and Byers did. I mean, they have the athleticism, they have the skills, they have the traits. So yeah, I'm excited for them. I think Elmer is going to take a big jump. I mean, I feel like he's possibly like the top 2 scorer. I mean, Kraft was there. You have Ipsaro. Scaljak could take a good leap. He, as a freshman off the bench, I think had a great year. Lethal shooter. Byers, can easily pull it up.
Ipsaro, he's going to be huge as well.
Steele called him a prick. He's a great. I really like him. I think, like culture wise, I think he brings like some of the most energy. Like,
100%.
I feel like he's like the hype man. I don't know. That's just like I love that he stayed. I think he's one of the most crucial aspects of the team.
Jackson Katecki is pretty similar. He's not someone you're going to see put up crazy numbers, but you just see his enthusiasm. You watch him on the sidelines. You watch him when he does get to play. He just loves basketball is what it is, but he loves Miami in particular, and that's huge.
I mean, this whole team, like Dan Lewis, who graduated last year, didn't obviously didn't play a lot, but another locker room guy, senior with good presence, stuff like that. So Miami will definitely miss, some of those guys, but I think, if Steele continues, the way he's been coaching and the way the system's run, I don't see the reason to really slow down. I mean, they went on a great run in conference play. I don't know if we're going to see, that can, 100% like mapped this year. But there's always room for improvement in non-conference play, which they weren't the best in. They could have won some that they lost.
There were some, yeah, and even their Big Ten opponents, Michigan and Indiana from last year. You look at the score and you might think that wasn't super close, but well, actually, let me check because I'm pretty sure the scores were close in both of those games. We could have easily won those, which is impressive to see, in my opinion. Big Ten teams, I think when you think of Indiana and Michigan, maybe not so Michigan, but Indiana especially, I think of a really good program. So the fact that we went toe to toe with them was impressive to see.
Yeah, the game versus Wright State, I remember. We were up in that game at one point in the first half, and then we kind of, in the last couple of minutes, we kind of let out. I remember that game.
Mm-hmm.
That was really early on.
Yeah, I want to say that was the second game of the season. That was the only loss at home, though, which kind of shows that they got their stuff together. But
Indiana
that
lost.
was devastating.
We lost by 9. What else? And there were some, close non-conference wins like Mercer. Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, I hate to jump back in here, but unfortunately, we are out of time once again this week. Fellas, thank you for hopping on and giving us a little preview of what we're going to see next year. Really looking forward to see what you guys do and where you guys take this next year. So thank you guys again for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about what we're building here at Riverfront. It's been an honor to be a part of it. But until next year, we'll say goodbye for now. We'll see you all next year for next season of Red Brick Recap.